Hi, I'm Paul Marcel. I wanted to do a quick review of the Festool RS-2e half sheet finishing sander. Now this sander is a random orbit sander. It's quite the big beast, so you're actually going to cover quite a bit of surface area with the half sheet going down. One of the things I like this for is while I do use the DTS 400 and some of the other sanders for rail and styles of a project, I almost always use this for the large sheet, any large surface like a panel, or even if it's a panel over the glue up, something like that, as this helps ensure that it's going to be flat, and of course you're taking a larger surface area at a time, so you're going to ensure that it stays flat and get the job done faster. Now, while this is a fairly heavy sander, you're not going to be using it above your head or anything like that, so actually it works out in your favor. You just want to leave it there and let it do its own work. Now, you could always hang on to the handle if you want, but I actually find that this top grip is what I almost always use. It seems to be easier to just guide it where you want, letting it use its own weight, than to do something where you might be pressing down on the back, actually applying more pressure there. But that's just whatever, technique that people can use. Now, if you're looking at the sander, you'll notice that this one has a regular everyday tail. It doesn't have the typical Festool, the plug-it cable. The plug-it cables became the norm. There's always a car behind me. The plug-it cables became a norm after this tool was released, or after the tool was released, and they haven't bothered to retrofit it yet, since the sander works just fine as is. So if you happen to live outside of North America, you can get a retrofit kit. If you're in North America, well, tough. So now this sander has a dust port back here. It happens to be one of the older style dust ports, so it's oval. It still fits on the regular tool port hose, so the D27 hose simply attaches over top of that without an issue. There is also, and I have actually had to use this a number of times, they just call it a little turbo bag. So this will attach to the back here, and then it actually throws the dust in here fairly well. I was very impressed. I had to go and resurface a countertop at a friend's house, so I just took the sander and I didn't bother with the vacuum, simply going for the turbo bag, and it worked very, very well. So I was happy about that. Now, this sander has variable speed, so you can turn it down if you're trying to just softly do something as opposed to getting terribly aggressive with it. I tend to just leave it on 6 and go. The sander itself does have provisions for, and there is a latch here that you can use, so you can use your own sheets that would wrap over the edge, and then this will pinch down on it. So you don't have to use the stick fix papers. Of course, this is terribly convenient, so I do. It turns out that there is a hole puncher that will punch this pattern in paper, so if you have your own papers that you're using that you would normally strap onto this, you can go ahead and buy that puncher to punch the appropriate holes and go about it that way. Now, again, this sander is a random orbit, so it's not going to be a linear motion, so you can float it everywhere that you want and not have to worry about that. One of the things I also like about it is, besides it being a finish sander, of course, so I tend to use the higher grits, 180, 220, 320 on surfaces, is that you can of course get the lower grits. Now they do have a 24 grit paper. This one here happens to be a 40 grit. Now there's been times where I needed to remove some material. This could almost act as a mini drum sander for certain applications. So I do tend to use this really coarse paper occasionally for that. Or if I'm trying to remove material, this isn't as aggressive as, say, a Rotex in disc mode, but certainly if you're trying to remove some finish off of something and you want to make sure it stays flat and you just get through the finish, using a 40 grit paper like this would be stellar for that. Whereas with the Rotex, it might be me, I tend to dish a little bit when I'm trying to do that, because if I angle it a bit, it goes faster. With this, you can't really do that. So that's about it for this review. This is definitely one that I don't hear a lot of people having, but it is, after I got it, I didn't realize how much I was going to use it, and I use it every project gets touched by this sander. Thank you.